Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Circuit Stream and University of California event. I am going to kick off the event in just a couple of minutes here, but before I officially get started, I usually like to double check, make sure that everybody can see me okay, everybody can hear me okay. I did enable the reaction, so you should be able to give me a thumbs up. Or you can type in the chat off in the right-hand corner there. Okay, cool. I see some thumbs up coming through. Amazing, amazing. I always like to double check where people are joining us from as well. I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but feel free to share in the chat where you're joining us from. In the meantime, I'm going to queue up the presentation that we have here for today. And I will get that ready to go in just a moment. The other thing I'm going to do actually, while everybody is joining in here, I sent out an email to all of the event registrants in advance with the link to the game development syllabus download, just in case you didn't see that email or you didn't get a chance to download the syllabus quite yet. I am going to throw that into the chat. I think it's just a quick click, and they'll send it to you once you fill out the form. They send it right to your email inbox. The other thing to note is that this whole session today is going to be recorded. So if anybody is interested in any of the information on any of the slides or just throughout the presentation overall, just note that you will get a copy of this. So if you request a syllabus on that link, that'll land in your inbox. And then just by attending or registering for this event, you'll also get a recording of this event in your inbox afterwards as well. So and cool, I can see lots of Californias in here. I was kind of hoping that would be the case. Santa Monica, Walnut, Paris, Santa Cruz, Irvine, amazing, amazing. Elk Grove, welcome everybody. San Francisco, California across the board is amazing, but I have to say San Francisco is one of my personal favorites just from travel. I love going to the developers conference down there. So welcome everyone. I will share that syllabus download link again later in the chat, just in case we have some new people joining in that missed it. To start with, but yeah, you should have also received that in your email. So, all right, without further ado, in the bottom corner here, everyone can see the chat log. You're already using that. Feel free to engage with that throughout the presentation. There's also a questions tab down there and a polls tab down there. So the questions tab, we are going to do Q&A at the end with both of our guest speakers today. So if you have any questions for them, just make sure you put them into the questions tab. And then at the end of the event, we will go through that together. And then in the polls tab, I am going to publish a poll right now. So there should be one in there for everyone. It's just checking to see what sort of industries you are currently working in. So outside of that, let me make the presentation screen a little bit bigger here. You don't need to see my face as big now. And we can get going. So I'll start off by introducing myself. So my name is Tyler Trabb. I'm the marketing events manager at Circuit Stream. I've been with this company for about 2.5 years. I previously worked in travel and tourism for about 10 plus years, kind of like my pre-COVID life, I say. And I am a video game enthusiast myself. So I love Fortnite. I'm a senior Fortnite player, I say, but I also play anything Mario or basically any video game I love. So. And we will have two guest speakers joining us today. I'm going to invite them on stage in a few minutes. But first, I'm just going to do a quick little introduction here. So the first will be Salar Kohari. He's a gameplay programmer at Santa Monica Studios. He'll be the first one hopping on stage in a few minutes, and he's going to share his tips and advice on how to break into the gaming industry. After Salar, we will have a second speaker, Iris Zhang, as engineering manager at Riot Games. And she's going to share her story on and provide us with her tips and tricks as well. So I will invite them up on stage in just a few minutes here. Before I do that, I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about this partnership. So collaboration between education companies and research institutions fosters innovation and provides students with access to high quality education and resources. Curriculums that are aligned with current industry trends and demands ensure that students receive education that is important to their future and their careers. Universities are hubs of academic and professional networks, providing students with the opportunity to connect with peers, professors, and professionals from various different fields. This partnership now adds University of California, Irvine to the top list of global universities partnered with CircuitStream. And we deliver both XR development and design education as well as game development education. So just to tell you a little bit about the partnership there. I'd also like to provide a bit of an overview of who CircuitStream is for everyone. So CircuitStream began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, and creators who are pioneering the virtual and augmented reality ecosystem. CircuitStream saw a need for education and training that would empower people to build Unity and XR applications and advance the industry's frontiers. We now partner with industry leading companies and leading educational institutions like UCI to offer courses and training to those looking to learn more about emerging technologies such as game development and XR development and XR design. And again, I'm going to share this presentation with everybody afterwards. We will send out a recording. So in case you're interested in any of this information, we will be sending it out. This here is a general overview of the course offerings available through the partnership. We provide 2 10-week XR focused courses in development and interaction design, and then the 1 30-week game development bootcamp. That's going to be kind of the main focus of today's presentation. I'm going to share a little bit more detailed information on the courses later on in the presentation, but I just want to take a quick moment and mention that we do have a once a year November special promo on right now. It's a pretty significant promo. It's 25% off of all 3 courses. So like I mentioned, I'm going to go through and share more information, more details on the courses themselves. But in case anybody's interested or looking to register, it's a pretty cool time. We've got an amazing promo on right now for November. So let me go into a little bit about the XR and the gaming industries here. So some of you may already know about XR. Others may have heard recent buzz around like the new Apple headset or the Meta Quest 3 headsets that were both released earlier this year. Either way, I just want to give a brief overview of this industry for everyone. So XR stands for extended reality, which encompasses virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. The XR industry has grown immensely in the last few years and has made its way into a wide range of industries such as gaming, film, music, manufacturing, healthcare, retail, and many more. Many companies use XR for training simulations, interactive customer experiences, project visualization, learning experiences, product development, virtual tours, and so on and so forth. So just a little bit about XR. The primary roles in XR are usually grouped into either development or design. I'll share a little bit of the differences, I guess, between those two for everyone here. So XR designers are primarily responsible for conceptualizing ideas and experiences, planning visuals through storyboarding, and prototyping to ensure optimal user experience. Whereas the XR developers take on the design blueprints and implement them to build an XR app or experience, and they utilize the code and bring it to life for the end user. So a little bit of a difference between the two. They generally work pretty closely together. A lot of our students that take both courses end up collaborating through our Discord channel and working together on projects during the courses, after the courses. But some do take on both and want to be able to kind of develop and design a project from start to finish. For anybody who is looking at doing something like that, I just always recommend just pace yourself a little bit. We do offer education in both areas. So if you are looking at learning XR development and XR design, we can certainly offer the education, but maybe just try and do one at a time and just kind of pace yourself as you go through so you don't burn out or overload yourself is all. So, it goes without saying, UCI DCE now offers both courses or courses in both of these areas. So an XR development and an XR design through the partnership with us here at CircuitStream. The XR industry in California is a hotbed for technology, innovation, and numerous companies and research institutions. The state is home to a vibrant startup ecosystem as well, with a focus on developing XR hardware, software, and content across different verticals. Major technology companies like Meta, Google, Unity, Apple, and Microsoft all have significant XR initiatives and offices in California. These companies have been developing XR hardware and software and shaping the industry's direction. So I'm going to flip now and share a little bit more on the gaming industry here. So the gaming industry in California, of course, is dynamic and an influential sector with a rich history of innovation, development, and cultural impact. Its tech-savvy population contributes to a vibrant gaming culture with esports competitors and gaming conventions drawing enthusiasts in from all over the world. It's home to some of the world's largest and most influential gaming companies, including EA, Riot Games, Activation Blizzard, Santa Monica Studios, so on and so forth. We do have a few speakers from some of those companies here with us today. It's also home to a thriving indie game development scene with many smaller studios and individual developers creating innovative and unique gaming experiences. So there are currently over 380 game studios located in California alone, with over 700 jobs supported. And I do apologize if I mute every once in a while. I'm just getting over that lovely cold that seems to be going around with everybody right now as well. So if I sound a little raspy, I apologize. I'm on the tail end of it, so it should be good. Becoming a game developer or designer can be a rewarding choice for individuals who are passionate about gaming and for those who have a creative flair for interactive experiences, problem solving, and technology. On screen, you can see some of the top reasons why people would be or would choose to work as a game developer in this industry here. And speaking of the gaming industry and the careers, I'd like to take a moment here and invite CircuitStream Student Outcome Manager One Eye on stage. One Eye is going to share some information about our career development program. Welcome, One Eye.
Thank you so much, Tyler. All right, so our 30-week boot camps also come with additional career support and guidance. These boot camps include career services in monthly labs, as well as one-on-one coaching for the development of soft skills, as well as job search assistance. Our CircuitStream Career Labs teach students how to leverage technical and behavioral strengths, gain awareness of the Unity digital ecosystem, create compelling portfolios, elevate digital presence, learn how to network effectively, as well as become interview ready for industry jobs. Career support highlights include writing resumes and cover letters, dedicated pitch and networking events, crafting a digital portfolio, job search, navigation, preparing for interviews, as well as salary negotiations. Our career and networking support really sets these programs apart from others you may find. Every student has different objectives coming in, but those who are looking for new jobs or to improve their current positions, they really find this aspect of the course incredibly helpful.
Absolutely.
All right, and we wanted to shout out this specific networking event, Pitch Day, which happens towards the end of the program, where you can showcase your capstone project to hiring and industry partners. This event is great to add people to your network, be considered for any job openings they may have, or just to get feedback on your projects from hiring managers in the industry.
Awesome. Well, that's perfect. Yes, and I've attended some of our pitch days in the past, and they're usually stacked with amazing people from the industry, ready to take a look at the work that the students have done throughout the course there. So, well, that's perfect. Thank you so much, One Eye. One Eye will be in the chat here for a little bit. I think she may have to hop off for another meeting this afternoon, but she should be in the chat for a little bit if you have any questions about the career support through CircuitStream and through UCI for these courses. So. Now, without further ado, I am going to go ahead and officially introduce our first speaker up on stage. Salar develops systems for player controls, AI behaviors, and animation tech. He's been making games since age 8, which is absolutely insane. And the last 5 years has been with the Santa Monica studio. So I would like to officially welcome Salar up on stage. Perfect. Hello, hello. Yes, we can see you. I'm going to close my presentation, Salar, because I believe you're going to be sharing a screen here in a moment anyways. So I'll close mine and get it out of the way here for you.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler.
No problem.
Hello, I'm Salar. I work in the game industry and I love making games. I'm just going to talk a little bit about kind of what inspires me and like why you might be inspired to continue to push and get into the game industry. Some tips for improving your game development skills and breaking into the industry, that kind of stuff. So let me share. There we go. Yeah, and I'll also just mention that like I wrote up a text version of like a game industry starter guide. So that has some extra details about some of the topics I'll be covering. But it's a little bit more like factual than like a presentation. but you might want to check that out too. And yeah, I'm Salar Kohari. I'm a gameplay programmer at Santa Monica Studio, which I didn't really know what that was before I joined, but I'm pretty much implementing gameplay mechanics, like Tyler mentioned, like AI behaviors, animation tech, player controls, making cool stuff like that. Santa Monica Studio is the most generic studio name, but I love it, and we make really cool games like God of War Ragnarok. So if you guys don't know it, it's like a PlayStation game, open, like not open world, action adventure game. And I will link this, the document that I mentioned, but you guys can check it out after. And yeah, I'm a lifelong game developer. I've been making games since age 8. I was making games in Flash, which was like, I really loved going on my browser and just being able to play a bunch of games on demand. I guess mobile games are kind of the equivalent of that. But that's what got me into game development, being able to make my own games that were like really quick and easy to make, just as it was easy to jump in and play them. It was a great era. Speaking of era, please excuse me if my voice is a little raspy as well. I just saw the Eras tour movie yesterday and I was singing really loudly. But anyway, I also play video games, guitar, volleyball. The art of playing is something as old as human evolution. It is a fundamental desire that people have to be able to play and kind of learn in a safe environment where it's rewarding and all of that. So the same thing that applies to why video games are so addictive applies to the games that were created in ancient Egypt and before, as well as playing sports, which are also games, playing guitar. It's cool to just like take a step back and realize that games are much older than like the video games that popped up in the 80s. They're just like a part of the human experience, really. So yeah, that's the starting point. And I'm super passionate about the industry. So with that, I'm going to just explain a little bit about why maybe you should join the industry too. And that's definitely how I feel with like the SpongeBob imagination whenever I'm making a game sometimes. But yeah, so one of the things is that there are like creative and technical projects that are very challenging and collaborative. So it just like feels like a big achievement when you're able to create something that you can actually then play. And building on that, like you can help others in like very fun, social, and rewarding ways for the developers who get to like work together and create something that they're proud of that like expresses themselves, as well as for the players who like just have so much fun playing the game. Oftentimes it like pulls them out of like a dark spot or just like has them something to look forward to at the end of like a long day. That's like particularly was important for me because of like people like sometimes I tell myself or people would tell me like, oh, like why don't you like become a doctor or like something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I could have been like working hard and like actually saving lives instead of like making video games. But you know, I think that like making video games actually brings like so much happiness to people. It brings people together. People meet their like spouses through video games. People make friends. People, you know, like save themselves from depression and stuff. Like, sorry to get heavy, but like it can be really impactful in its own way. And if that's what you're good at and that's what you're passionate about, you know, maybe that's something for you as well. So you don't have to be like directly giving people medicine in order to make a difference in people's lives. And lastly, the revenue wise, the game industry is more than double the revenue of film and music combined. So that sounds cool, I guess. It is like a very capitalistic thing to say because like, does gaming have more impact right now than movies and music? In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. But it's definitely the most recent and fastest growing kind of media. It's interesting how like movies kind of took like plays and they added like cinematography and like CGI and stuff on top of it. And then games took like movies and added interactivity and made like the interactive gameplay part the core of it, especially in the early arcade games where there wasn't much graphics to show. But now it's kind of like games have gone a little more like movies as the technology has caught up. But like games kind of, I think, has the most of like all of these like types of media, the visual, the audio, and then that plus the power of play, which is like I said, a fundamental human need. It just is such an engaging form of media that you can really tell very powerful stories and make people feel things as well. And I'll also mention, because I said I've been making games since I was age 8. I know people who have joined the game industry from any age, like people who are like either they start really young, they transition from another career at age 40 or 50. I've seen that. Or like students, people find out about it during college. So like whatever point you're at, it's never too early or too late to start making your own games. And I'll also say that like, also another step back, sorry if I'm getting very existential here, but like if you think about like life on Earth for billions of years and humans evolving over whatever hundreds of thousands or millions of years, we're alive in the time right now where we can create computer games that are like the most advanced form of play and games that humans have ever seen. I think that's pretty cool, cutting edge type of technology as well, if you think about it that way. So it's not all fun and games. Yeah, no, it is all fun and games. Yeah, so that brings me to my next topic. How do you make a game? So basically you just sit there and play games all day, and then games get made, as everybody seems to already know. No, I'm sure that you guys know that there's a lot that goes into making a game besides just playing games. Here are some of the disciplines that go into games. Like I'm sure that I'm missing some, like QA and marketing, and just like so many different types of people who like go work on a game and all have to collaborate to make something cool. That is one of my favorite parts of game development. It's like such a diverse group of people. Like imagine all of these different types of people, artists, animators, programmers, designers in the same room working together on something. It's just like the most creative like type of thing that I've ever experienced. And just like if I can see it in like every step of the way when you look at a game. Like if I look at this screenshot from God of War Ragnarok, oh, there's a wolf sled. I worked on the wolf sled. I programmed, the gameplay behaviors, what happens when you move around, how do the animations react and stuff like that. There's like rope physics on the wolves pulling the sled. Then there's a design of like, oh, how should it feel? How fast should it go? Like relative to how big the world is and stuff like that. There's the art. People have to model the different characters and the wolf sled and everything. Animation, what are the characters doing? How do they move? You've got music playing, you've got sound effects playing as the wolf sled goes, you've got snow being kicked up and visual effects, like the user experience of like, oh, how do you get on and off the sled? And then the production, the people who are like the producers kind of rally everybody together and make sure that we're all on the same timeline and going to get stuff done. QA has to fix things. They put it into a trailer. So like there's so many different people who are touching every single aspect of the game, not to mention the people who make the tools and the tech behind it that aren't necessarily in the same picture. So I think the key to that, the key takeaway is kind of like making a game is really fun. The studios range from anywhere from 1 to 10,000 people, where one person would obviously be doing all these things and maybe putting more attention to stuff that they're good at or they like to. And a studio of 10,000 has like super specific things of like, oh, you only, I'm specialized in making the art of the people's handkerchiefs or something. I don't know. In the extreme case, people work on very specific stuff at like ginormous studios. So Santa Monica Studio is like a few hundred people, which is also still pretty sizable. So, try things out, see where your strengths and your passions align is kind of the key to figuring out where you might fit in the game industry. But it's a lot of fun, and whatever you're having fun with, keep pursuing that. And you don't have to be good at everything, but it is fun to try things out. Then there's like the different stages of game development that you usually see, whether it's a 1-person team or a 10,000 person team. There's like pre-production where it's like everyone's throwing around ideas. It's like you yes and everything. You don't have to like turn things down. You try things out, prototype. Production, you kind of have like a more clear vision of what you're making, and you're just kind of executing on your vision. And then finaling is like where you have to fix all the bugs, and it gets really chaotic at the end. We're like, oh no, we need to fix this thing. The game's crashing, and we're releasing tomorrow. That stuff like always happens pretty much, no matter how prepared or how many people you have. It gets pretty chaotic. And for you guys starting out, get a game engine, make a game. I'm sure you've heard of Unity and Unreal. They're both really good starting points for making games. I started in Flash, which is completely obsolete at this point, but I think the lessons I learned from making games in Flash definitely still hold up. As you get more specific into like, if you want to become a programmer, you might want to learn C++. If you want to become an artist, you probably want to learn Maya or Blender, or, there's different tools and more specifics you can get to, but starting out, choose a game engine, make stuff, find people that you can work with, and it's a lot of fun. Stuff to help you get started on your journey as well. On YouTube, that's probably the biggest, free, easiest accessible resource that I know of. Is like, you've got GDC talks being posted on there from the Game Developers Conference of all different aspects of game development. Extra Credits is like a cool, like, they talk about design and the various elements of game development in like a very like visual, dumbed down, like 5-minute summary type of way, which is really good, like bite-sized information to kind of understand on these different topics. And then YouTube tutorials for how to build a game. There's like anything you can possibly imagine, like of some simple game concept. Somebody probably has a tutorial for like how to make it. So that's a really good starting point. Like, you can try making it yourself. You can follow a tutorial, and then maybe you can see like, oh, where did my tutorial differ from what I was planning to do or what I did? And then you can kind of like help like prove out your own methods and learn that way as well, rather than like working in a bubble. So that's generally how you make a game. Obviously, I simplified the process quite a bit, but there's these different aspects, and kind of focus on your strengths and your passions. Sounds great. Where do I sign? Yeah, I forgot to mention it's a little bit more complicated than that. But really what it comes down to is like, you got to be consistent, keep applying, keep improving your skills, have fun with it, because the more you have fun with it, the more you're going to be inspired to work harder and really push yourself to like reach the game industry and that kind of thing. Motivate and push yourself with your creations. I have this Rocky quote in there because it's super cheesy and I just had to. It's just, it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And I think it's kind of ironic too, because like, it's like a boxing movie, and like, I'm kind of a pacifist, but it actually works if you're a pacifist too, because like, you're not really hitting them. You're just like getting hit and keep moving forward. So yeah, in any case, I think it just applies to like working hard in any aspect of your life. Like, if you just do it, if you convince yourself that it's fun and you like put in the time, like it just becomes easy to make progress, and don't get comfortable with kind of the progress that you've made. It always gets easier and easier. But you have to keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to like really gain new skills each time. A couple other tips is like, don't do it alone. I think that I've always kind of dragged my friends along since I was a kid, of like, oh, help me make art for this game. And just like, it's so much easier to motivate yourself when you're doing stuff with other people, in any sort of capacity, even if you're just like showing people your work and doing playtest or something, or if you're working on a large team. Either way, I would suggest, do it with other people. It's fun. It's a social experience making games. And don't give up. Yeah, it's the most cheesy, overheard advice you can hear, and yet it still rings very true. And I will mention that, it gets easier each time. Everything gets easier as you do it more. Whether you're applying to jobs, it gets easier as you do more applications. Interviews, they get easier as you do more of them. To bring in a little bit of a sad, shunned note, there's layoffs that have happened in the game industry that you might have heard of. And I honestly, I think this, like, I have been very lucky that I haven't been laid off, but I definitely know people from other studios, my friends, who have been laid off. And I think the same thing kind of applies, of like, you just got to be consistent, keep growing your skills, keep applying. And if that ever happens, which hopefully you guys never have to experience that, and the game industry ditches that ugly part of capitalism where people get laid off. But I think that the same thing applies, and it's only going to get easier. Like, getting your first job in the industry is probably going to be harder than getting your second job in the industry. So just, keep pushing. Don't give up. Don't get demotivated by getting rejected or whatever. It takes time. I applied to like dozens of game studios every year of college, and I finally got one interview on my senior year. So it just takes time and persistence. This is kind of just some boring stuff I just put up here. The resume, cover letter, portfolio stuff. I have more specific like checklists for each of these categories in my guide. But just real quick, I'll just mention like your resume, you want to like slightly tailor it to every place that you apply to, and you want to like keep it pretty brief compared to what your natural instinct might be. You want to really get all the keywords in and remove the fluff. Same with your cover letter. They are required, even if they say they're optional. You definitely always want a cover letter. Make them personal and inspired, and don't repeat stuff from your resume. Your portfolio is like a little bit more optional because like you can usually like just get it from your resume, whatever the stuff that you worked on and the key points about it. And like people don't often have a lot of time to look at a lot of applications, but you know, put your best projects. You don't have to put all your projects, and just like some key info, but I talk about that more in my guide. And then interviews, just like understand the requirements for the position. There's this GDC talk about like the soft skills that go in an interview, like how to like get yourself in the right mindset and be a human being, all that. I forget sometimes, especially because like we're just beings in a simulation, not even real people. But yeah, that is about all I was going to talk about. Yeah, I'll just mention we're going to be doing questions at the end, I believe, after Iris is speaking. So feel free to write down your questions and save them for the end. I'm always available if you want to message me on LinkedIn or whatever. I'm taking the day off today, so today would be a good day if you want to reach out and ask me some questions. Otherwise, I'm busy, but I will still answer you for sure. And that is it. I hope that you are inspired and ready to commit every single waking hour to making video games from now on.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, Solar.
Thank you.
All valuable information, of course. And the deadpan sense of humor always gets me. I love that too. So thank you.
I can't laugh at my own jokes that much.
I was laughing on my end. So, and like Solar mentioned, I'll invite you back up in just a few minutes here, and we can do some QA at the end of the presentation too. So I'll let you hop off here now. I'm going to close your presentation for you there.
All right. Bye.
Perfect. We'll see you soon. And then I am going to share my presentation again here. There we go. So I can go ahead and officially invite the next speaker up. And one thing I actually, before I do this officially here, Iris, one thing I will mention is we have the questions tab and the chat tab. We are going to go through the questions as a group at the end. I can see that Iris, you've already answered some of them, which is amazing. So we'll just, anything that's answered, we'll just kind of note it at the end and share it with everybody. But if anybody has any additional questions, feel free to put them into the chat tab or the questions tab. And we will go through that as a group at the end here as well. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our second speaker up on stage today, engineering manager at Riot Games. This is Iris Zhang. She's already been pretty active in the chat here, so you can see that she's been engaging with everybody. But Iris comes with over 6 years of software engineering experience. She currently leads a team of game engineers at Riot Games as they work towards the 10-year horizon of making Leads Engine a premier place to experiment with prototyping new game modes. So without further ado, welcome, Iris.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here.
Close mine. There we go.
Okay, so I think to start us off, I'm going to have us all watch a little bit of a video just to get you all excited, pumped, give you a short little intro as to what we do here at Riot. So this is our 2022 annual impact report. So it was made at the end of last year. All right, so let's just get into it.
We are rioters. We are all individuals with different skills, backgrounds, personalities, nationalities, genders, languages, cultures, but we are united in our purpose.
this is my community and this is our community, and we want to see these kids benefit from what we're able to do.
The Valorant Game Changer series and the Game Changers Academy will create a whole new set of competitions with the goal of building a Valorant Champions Tour that better represents the diversity of our community.
Where we go next is up to all of us. But as we grow and evolve, don't lose sight of our competitive edge, our love, passion, and authenticity.
Wow. Actually, I just watched that for the first time, so I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't know about that Solar Center stuff. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Let me make sure that I can move over to I always do this. Hold on one second. There we go. Alrighty. So hi everyone, I'm Iris. I'm an engineering manager at Riot Games. And thank you so much, Tyler, for the opportunity and also to get to know Solar as well. I just want to share a little bit about my journey into game dev to give you an idea of what kinds of challenges you might face, but also give a little bit of inspiration for persevering because it can be pretty tough out here. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey. So my first job out of college was actually being a high school teacher in the Philadelphia public school system for 9th grade and 11th grade science. So I was really inspired by Teach for America's mission to provide an excellent education to every student in the U.S. However, I think unfortunately the conditions under which I was working at wasn't great. I really burnt out, and I actually found a lot of solace in video games at the time. So I started playing them a ton. And I kind of really credit games at that point for pulling me out of a life rut. So shout out to Solar who talked about that because that totally happened for me. And it really inspired me to go back to school again. So I took like an introduction to Java community college class. I loved it so much that I enrolled in a continuing education program, which led to me getting my degree part-time while working for several startups in New York. And during this transitional time, I also took the opportunity to attend conferences like Grace Hopper Celebration, as well as GDC, the Game Developers Conference. And I ended up with my first tech job at Microsoft in 2017 through the Grace Hopper Celebration. Back then, I was a backend engineer. And a year later, sometime after that, I was working at Microsoft for a year. I ended up, I think on a whim, I was like clicking on some ads in LinkedIn, and I saw a LinkedIn ad for Riot Games. So I clicked it. I really didn't think anything of it at the time, but that's how I ended up at Riot. You know, they kind of recruited me at that point, and that was my first break into games. Let's see here. Yeah, so I think the last slide that I showed looked pretty linear when I lay it all out that way. Like, oh yeah, it's one step after another. You did this and I did this. But the truth is my journey was definitely extremely winding, and I faced a lot of decisions and setbacks multiple inflection points. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about what those are. So the first being, I had considered going for either a boot camp or a full-time master's degree during my transition into this industry. And I eventually settled on the grad degree, but I also believe that it could have been a very viable path for me if I didn't go down that path. So at the time I was making that decision, I was already kind of working at different startups in New York, and I didn't have, that CS degree. And I know that plenty of people were able to find success without one. So my one piece of advice for you as you're doing all these research into different programs and whatnot is to just pick the right one that feels right for you, and be sure to do your research on them. I actually credit a lot of success of my journey on continuing education programs. So yeah, I'm really grateful for Tyler for reaching out to me to tell you my story here. And I'm glad that you all are considering this option as well. Okay, so the second point I wanted to make was that it actually took me over a decade from when I first had the thought that, you know what, I think I can make a career out of games, to my first job in the industry. So like, yeah, from like 2011 till now. So this tweet on the right is something I posted back in 2011 or 2021 as part of this trend that goes around quite frequently, where our colleagues in the gaming industry will all kind of collectively talk about how notoriously difficult it is to break in, how we all tried and failed with multiple different studios before we got our first break. So I myself had applied at Riot multiple times before they even gave me a chance at an interview. But now I've been at Riot for 5 years. I've switched tech stacks. I went from backend to gameplay, and now I work on the engine that powers League of Legends and TFT, and I've become a manager during that time. So I've actually helped a lot of other people on their journey as well. So if I have any advice for someone who is struggling to break in, it's to keep finding ways to grow in your craft, no matter your circumstances. So get good at what it is that you want to do, and then eventually, with some luck, the right games job will come along for you. So speaking of crafts, I kind of wanted to switch gears a bit and bring awareness to the different paths you can take into gaming. So mine was through engineering, but there's so many different ones, and these are not color coded in any way, by the way. This was just what was available to me on the slides. But when people say game dev, there are so many different ways to be a game dev, not just as a designer. So my coworkers in data, QA, art, production, they all fulfill different but very pivotal functions at Riot. And working together is the only way we're able to make the best kind of experiences possible for players. So don't limit yourself into thinking that breaking into the games industry needs to look a certain way. I know you're all considering what to invest in at the moment, but I think you're only limited by your determination and imagination. Cool. So that's kind of all I've got for you. But I'd love to answer any questions. So and also if you want to keep up with my career, I do have a Twitter account that is where I direct people these days.
I was going to say it's an X account these days, but
yes.
I still call it Twitter with all of my friends too.
Same.
So
It just sounds too weird to call it X.
I know. I think everybody I know is still calling it Twitter, so I think it might stay that way for us. But well, amazing. Thank you so much, Iris. Obviously, amazing advice for everybody. Awesome to hear your journey. And like I said with Salar for the audience here, Iris is going to be in the chat right now while I share a little bit of information for just a couple of minutes. But then after I share some information on the courses, myself, Salar, and Iris will all be available. More so them because they're going to have more qualified answers than I will, but we'll be able to answer any questions you have about the presentation, about the courses, about anything that you have there. So thank you, Iris. Just give me a minute here and I'll invite you right back up on stage. Awesome. Perfect. So let me share my presentation here one last time. Make my screen smaller. There we go. So I am going to just share a little bit of information on the courses here for everybody. I know we touched on a lot of the initial skill sets and everything that would be important to kind of break into the industry. I'm also going to share information on the XR courses, just because I did include that in the presentation earlier too. So the first course here is the 10-week XR development with Unity course. It's beginner friendly. It's all project based and delivered online. In fact, I guess all of our courses would be considered that way. But this course is designed for those who are interested in starting their journey into XR development. It has both synchronous and asynchronous weekly projects and assignments, and there are 8 hours of classwork and 5 hours of or office hours per week. And then once you take this course, you would complete it with an XR developer certification. Similarly, the 10-week interaction design and prototyping course would just be, structured exactly the same basically, but it's on the design and prototyping side. So you're not working on coding or anything like that. This course is meant for those interested in starting their journey into XR design, and you would complete this journey. Sorry if you can hear the honking behind me. I live on a very busy street, and people let their horns be known sometimes. Sorry about that. Students complete this course with an XR designer certification. So that's what it looked like after you take that 10-week course. And then this course here is a little bit more of the main focus, what we were talking about here today. So this is the 30-week game development bootcamp. It has 10 hours of class per week with 5 hours of live lectures, technical and career labs, and weekly office hours. The bootcamp is designed for those interested in learning Unity, game development, and it teaches students how to create immersive digital worlds and bring imaginative game concepts to life. The course is beginner friendly, but it is best suited for those who have a little bit of coding or Unity experience previously, which you can easily gain in our other courses, or you can pretty much gain that separately if you were looking at moving into game and development education. Just do a little bit of research in advance. If you connect with our team, we can actually give you some resources to work on before you actually sign up for the course as well. So, and students would complete this course with Unity Developer Certification, as well as a Unity Associate Programmer Certification. For anybody who doesn't know or is not familiar, Unity actually offers additional levels of certification directly through their company. We are partners with Unity, so all of our courses come with Unity certification, but for the game development course in particular, you can go one step further and write the examination. We cover the cost in the course. You just write the examination once you've completed the course after the 6 months, and then you're double certified by Unity, both with the associate and then also through UCI there. So that's a little bit about the actual course itself. Now, everybody's favorite question and information. Everyone's always curious about the pricing info. I know I mentioned earlier that we do have a special promo on right now, so I'll mention that as well. But the 10-week courses, the regular prices are $3,995 for the starter packages. There's also a plus package which comes with additional resources. That one's $4,995. And then the 30-week developer bootcamp is normally $14,995, but with this promo, it drops it down, which is actually insane. It's $11,246 before taxes there. So it's a good time if you're looking at taking this bootcamp. This promo usually only runs once a year. It goes throughout November here. So if you are interested, just let us know. We can definitely give you more information about that. There's payment plans available too, so you can take a look at that info. And we typically run these courses every few months. The upcoming cohort dates, just so people are kind of aware. So it would be March 18th for both the XR Development with Unity course, as well as the Interaction Design and Prototyping for XR course. And February 13th would be the start date for the upcoming Game Development Bootcamp there. And I think we still have some spaces available on that one. Registration is open. So what I'll do, I'm going to share this one just because this is the main actually, you know what? I'm just going to share the general meeting. So basically in the chat there, if anybody has any questions about any of the courses, about the partnership, about, the education, if you didn't receive your syllabus in your email, whatever the case may be, just click this link here and you can book a meeting directly with somebody at the company here or through the university so we can answer questions for you. And that's it. That's my formal part of the presentation. I always just like to make sure I share the resources for everybody if they're looking or if they're interested in registering for this type of education. So without further ado, I will invite both speakers back up on stage here, and we will get to the more exciting Q&A portion. Let me close my Q&A tab here. And Solar and Iris, feel free to hop back up. I am going to open the questions tab here in the meantime and see what we've got here. Okay, so welcome back. Let me put this up here. So I don't know. Iris, did you answer this one already? I copied one over at the beginning, but I think you
I
may have.
did. Yeah, I think I answered this one in the chat. I can go over it real
Yeah,
quick
if that's
verbally
okay.
again. So, Alec, thank you for this question. I think a lot of people when they're first starting out, especially in programming, are like, what language or framework should I use? And I always tell them it's not about the language or the framework, it's about computer science fundamentals. And so if you can, um, you know, get a good book on that. I recommend the CLRS book. It's very dense, but it is the best book on algorithms there is. So get into data structures, get into algorithms, learn a little bit about memory management and performance, operating systems. Those are your fundamentals essentially. And then once you get a hang on that, it's just a matter of using those skills and applying it to your technical interviews as you're starting to look at some of these studios. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
It definitely answers it much, much better than I would. I see you unmuting there, Solar. Did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say that in addition, I definitely agree that the CLRS book is very key. The question also mentioned something about object-oriented programming. I will also mention that most game studios do not use object-oriented programming. They use something called an entity component system. It's kind of just a fun thing to understand, to look up, but you don't really need to understand it very well to like get your first job in the industry or anything. But it's just good to be aware of.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you both. Gonna mark that one as answered. I think the next one I think you already answered this one as well, which is good. It's proactive. It's good, but I can't post it when it's been answered. I'm just going to read this one out, and maybe I'll let you guys both weigh in on it if that's okay. This question was from Vincent Vo. The question was, what is the work-life balance like?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned I've never crunched at Riot. I think I have pretty good work-life balance, but it's definitely a thing that happens in other studios. And then there's also, depending on what team you're in, you might be on call. This is something that happens with programmers a lot. So you might get woken up in the middle of the night saying, "Hey, our game just went down in this region. Can you help us get it back?" But the cool thing about being on call though is usually your manager would tell you, "Hey, take the next day off because your night just got interrupted," and also we have a schedule so you can kind of plan around it, and then your coworkers also share in the burden. So you might be on call just like 2 weeks out of the year or something like that if there are enough people on the team.
Cool.
Yeah, I also have barely crunched. Like out of the 5 years I've been at Santa Monica Studio, I worked more than 8 hours a day for like a couple months of that when we were like finishing God of War. I know that like depending on your team, it varies as well. Like engineering probably faces the least crunch out of the various teams. But I know that like the audio team was crunching for a lot longer than we were on the engineering team. So it kind of varies, depends on the team, depends on the size of the team, the type of project you're working on. But I'm hoping that the industry is going in a direction where there's going to be less and less crunch moving forward. I don't think it should be something that should scare you away, nor something that you should just accept as like, oh, I'm going to have to crunch. I don't think that's healthy or should be the case.
And it's probably similar to, I mean, I'm not speaking from experience here, but in most industries, oh, sorry. Ooh, can you guys still hear me okay? Yeah, okay, sorry. My system just flickered here for me a second. I thought it was going to go down. So what I was going to say is in most industries, if you're working on a big project, or if you've got one in particular thing on the go, it probably warrants a little bit more time than it normally would. So if you've got like a big game project that you're working on, that might be where you spend a few more hours on doing something like that. But so perfect. Let me go up to the next one here. So I'll put this one up. If I'm looking into more conceptual things like system design, and I write up stuff like GDDs, and how would I put that on a portfolio for when I feel like they aren't finished games and very unpolished things? So just like has projects on the go, and how would you properly present that in a portfolio, I guess?
I would suggest that if you like to write up a bunch of game design documents and stuff, I think that's very good practice, and you're learning a lot from doing that. I would actually try to think of like, oh, what are the ones that like you feel most inspired by, that you feel like are most complete ideas, and just try to like prototype something together in a game engine. I think that as you start prototyping it, you'll start to realize some holes in your game design document. Like as you play it, you're like, oh wait, that's not fun. Like I get stuck on this part or whatever. And like the game design document is kind of like the first step of like creating the game. And I think that that's the reason why you don't see it that often on portfolios, where like you'll want to commit to it and try to just like spend a couple of weeks and flesh out those game design documents into projects. You'll learn a lot from it, and it'll like look like a more complete thing on your resume and stuff as well. If you wanted to showcase them on your resume specifically, you could also say that like I've written up designs for these types of games that have covered X like types of mechanics or whatever. Like you can still mention that, but I think it is more valuable to just like create something as well in the game.
Absolutely. I'll flip on to the next one here. So let's see here. Currently in the process of getting a degree in data science. I was wondering if there are any perspectives on how this could fit into the industry and what opportunities I could try out. So looking at using data science along with game development.
No, totally. I'll take a shot at this. I'm not super familiar with our data org, but I know we have a pretty significant one at Riot. And depending on the games and company that you're looking at, you probably have lots of data opportunities. So the way I know how data fits into Riot is we have a lot of player data that we work with, and we look at trends, we look at what players are engaging with and whatnot, and we use that to inform our decision making. So we call our decision making data informed, not always data driven, because sometimes you want to give artists and designers the creativity to go with your gut and come up with what they think might work. But we do look at trends, player trends and whatnot, and data folks help us analyze that data and give us insight into what we should be doing next.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. I can see Solar nodding there. That's good. It's a good sign.
There's one more thing I wanted to add to the previous question also, which is that just to call out that people don't there's no job that I know of in the game industry where you're only writing game design documents. I think even if you're a systems designer, you're going to be like creating stuff with the tools that you have and actually implementing stuff in the engine.
Totally. Perfect. All right, here, I'll put the next one up here for us. I am a UCLA comp science junior, aspiring to follow the software development path aspect of game dev, but also have an extensive artistic background. Would you recommend I mainly focus on lead coding and side projects instead of diverting my focus between the two to get my first internship?
I feel like you're outsourcing a little bit of that decision making to us. No, I would say that it's up to you what you feel like you are most passionate about, right? Like, do you feel like you like the software development path, or is your passion more in art? I mean, you can't. There's only 24 hours in the day, so I would say like, hey, like, do pick a path that you feel like you're more passionate about and start driving towards that goal. But if art is how you like, if that's what your true passions are, like, don't give up on that. I actually had an intern on my team last summer that was both passionate in software engineering and art. Yes, she got in through software engineering, but she never really gave that up. Like, she still like drew a lot on the side and fell into a community of concept artists here at Riot as well. So yeah, there's a path for you.
Amazing. And Solar's nodding again. This is good. Perfect.
Yes, I agree. I also spend a lot of time playing guitar and writing songs and stuff, and music is a huge passion of mine. I haven't given that up, but I did like just choose like career-wise. I committed to computer science for college, and that put me on a certain path, but I never like gave up the other stuff that I like to do.
Amazing. Okay, let's see what we've got here. This is a very easy answer that I can do. It's rare that I can answer these ones solely on my own here for these questions, but how can you view the recording of this presentation? So this presentation will be emailed out to all of the registrants. We also have a YouTube channel through Circuit Stream. So if you just search Circuit Stream on YouTube, you should find our channel pretty easy. And usually our presentations are uploaded within about a day or so of them going live. So this presentation will be on the YouTube channel by tomorrow there. And let's see. Thanks for all of the insights. I was surprised that engineers actually have the least crunch. I'm wondering, what are the differences between gameplay engineers and software engineers in the industry? Are there separate positions at Riot as well?
I can take a stab at this. As far as at Riot goes, so Riot has kind of 3 buckets of engineers. We have gameplay or tools engineers. We also have backend engineers, so services engineers that work on the backend infrastructure of games. And then we also have web engineers who work on the web stack. You may commonly hear them referred to within the industry as front end or full stack engineers. So full stack meaning they go from front end all the way to back end. I would actually say that there are more backend services and web positions open within the game industry than actual game dev jobs. Gameplay specific programmer positions are quite rare because all the mechanics of the game, it's yes, that's the flashiest thing, the first thing you think of when you see a game, but it's all of the other stuff beyond that. How do you build the game? How do you get the game into the hands of your players? How do you stand up the game servers? All of that requires a lot of infrastructure, and there's a lot of opportunity there too. So yeah, I hope that answers that question.
Totally.
I will just also add that every game studio kind of has their own made up position titles for everything. I didn't know what a gameplay engineer was until I applied to this position and got a job. Basically during my interview, they were explaining to me what it was. But basically every studio will call it a different thing. Even for all the designers, there's we have a role called a player investment designer. What the heck is that? Some kind of systems designer. But the same thing applies for engineering. Software engineer, I would say, is kind of a blanket term that all of these other disciplines kind of fall under. You're all engineering software of different types, right? So it's kind of a general thing. Gameplay engineer, you're programming the gameplay stuff. Graphics engineer, tools engineer, whatever, you're engineering different types of software. So they're all software engineers. And then whatever that role is called, a gameplay engineer at my studio is probably very different from a gameplay engineer at Riot compared to an indie studio gameplay engineer. They all do different things, but ultimately it comes down to different types of software engineering, solving different types of problems depending on the size of your studio and what you're making and all that.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you both. Awesome. Does my school's name and GPA weight as heavy on projects I can do? If I come from a not so famous school versus a branded school?
That's a good question. I'm not saying that it doesn't have a factor at all, but at the same time, I do know that networking, attending conferences and having access to a good network means more than any school's a name or GPA. No one has ever asked me what my GPA was since. And yeah, and I would credit attending Grace Hopper celebration as my break into my first game, not games job, but tech job, as well as meeting people through conferences and meeting people through things like game jams.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Grace Hopper and GDC and stuff are really good events to meet people. I think there's kind of 2 reasons why people might think that a good school matters, which are both things you can cover and without having to go to a branded school thing. One is just the stuff you learn. You can learn stuff on the side. You can learn through these certificate programs and stuff. You can learn a lot of those skills, your computer science fundamentals. If you're really self-driven and can seek out the right knowledge and mentorship and everything, you can kind of get that on your own. And the other thing is like Iris mentioned, forming a network, knowing the right people. Maybe if they're for certain schools, whether they're near our office or big name schools or something, we might go to their career fair and try to recruit people or something. That's something that you might not have like as direct of like a contact with, which is why like different events, messaging people on LinkedIn, whatever other ways that you can kind of form your own network is going to be very important as well. But there's definitely no requirement. GPA, yeah, I wouldn't worry about your GPA. Like if you're passing your classes, like you're okay. Don't stress.
I love to hear those responses too, because I mean, the messaging that we provide to students on our side is, you know, obviously the skill sets matter and you have to develop your skill sets, but almost just as important, if not more important, while you're going through, get yourself out there, meet people, network, go to conferences. You know, game jams are huge, but even through just like the Circuit Stream network, you can just connect with other people through Discord and create your own little version of a game jam where you guys, you know, just work on some stuff together. And most people I know that have gone through education end up networking and working with a lot of the same people that they met at very early stages in their education or throughout for the rest of their careers. So yeah, just I love to hear those answers from both of you, because that's kind of the same information that I try and share with people. So
yeah, and if you don't know what networking is, which it's like kind of a word that's thrown around a lot. It's kind of like just a general, like basically like making friends with people who are either in the industry or like in some other type of way that like, it's not something that you're going to be like asking them like, oh, teach me how to make a game or something. It'd just be kind of like, oh, what was your process like to get in the game industry, and like get new perspectives of that. Or, oh, what are like, if there's someone like, oh, what are some things you're working on? What are some things I could work on? Down, like it happens over a long period of time, like making friends, like you can call on them and say like, oh, now I'm applying for jobs, can you look at my resume? Or oh, I heard this person is doing this kind of thing. Like it just kind of like gives you more awareness, like kind of surround yourself by the people that are successful to like help you also be successful is like a very common trope.
yeah, survive, or what they say, surround yourself by, or the people you spend, the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with kind of dictate a lot of what you do in your life.
Yeah, so it's kind of like making yourself surrounding yourself by those types of people who are like successful and where you want to be, but a little more artificially in a good way.
Totally. Awesome. Okay, well, let me pull up the next one here. Are there any resources you would suggest for aspiring game industry artists, especially for those in college who don't have game industry experience?
I wish. Yeah, I'm not an artist myself, but I think a lot of the same concept applies as to like don't give up. Like there's just there's so much competition out there, but there's also a lot of opportunity. Like actually, thinking about the person that I responded to whose like thread I saw on Twitter was an artist that I know at Riot, who now works, I think, on Valorant. So yeah, like artists have it hard too, but I think a lot of this applies.
Yeah, I'm also not an artist, but I think just keep improving your skills, keep building your network, work with other people. Like when you're making game specific art, you'll realize there's constraints that you might not have known, of like, oh, the gameplay needs to work in a certain way, or we have this poly count limit, or whatever it is. Like there might be some other things that you realize as you work with other people and get your art into real games. So I would try to do that as well.
Perfect. Let's see here. Oh, I couldn't send the question to the questions tab, but it's in the chat. Give me 1 second, Aran. Let me see if I can find that here. I graduated with game design degree and have been struggling to find a job for 3+ months. I'd like to take advice from Solar's document and adapt my resume and cover letter accordingly, along with the inspiring advice of never give up from Iris. Do either of you have more advice for someone that is actively trying to just break into the industry?
Yeah, I could take a stab at this. I would say just try to, at least this is what I did. I didn't get a games industry job when I first graduated. And so I went into tech instead, and I found an adjacent role that still allowed me to practice my craft, which is in software engineering, while I worked on, breaking into the games on the side. So my advice for you is to like find something that you can do in the present so you don't have such a gap on your resume. And honestly, 3 months isn't even that big of a gap, so I wouldn't worry about it so much. But if you can like start prove out like, hey, I'm employable, like I can work with other people, right? And then work towards breaking into the games industry.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And just like keep your mental health and stuff in mind. Like I think that it can be a struggle when you get like rejected or it's taking a long time. You like your self-worth or whatever might be in question. So just like, go easy on yourself. Know that this is the same for everybody. It takes a long time. It's really hard. But yeah, I agree with what Irish said as well. Like find some other opportunities maybe you can work on, stuff like that.
Yeah, and just network, do some game jams with people, just get as much experience as you can and get your name out there as much as you can. So this one, I feel like we've already kind of touched on this one a little bit, but excuse me. And they say, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but is it easier to break into the industry as an engineer, an artist, designer, or is there something else that we might not know about? Is there a secret title that everyone's getting hired under?
There's no secret title, but I think if I did my career over, like knowing what I know now, I would look into tech art because I feel like it's such a unique game dev industry position. It's like the so tech artists are kind of sit right in between that engineering and art disciplines, and they work on the tools and the pipelines that get art assets into the game. And so they can either be very like engineering focused, so they could be dabbling heavily in Python, writing scripts to do it, or they could be more on the art side, doing actual rigging, like setting up the skeletons for characters in the game.
And I should mention this too. It's not technically available through UCI DCE for this course, but through Circuit Stream we do offer a game design course as well, which teaches a lot of the design concepts as opposed to the development concepts. So if anybody has any questions about that, again, it's not available through DCE or through UCI quite yet. But we do have that offering available through Circuit Stream directly. So if anybody wants to take a look at that course syllabus or kind of what that entails, just reach out to us and let us know here. You can go to circuitstream.com, by the way, as well. And you can click, I think in the bottom corner, there's a live chat option that'll connect you with somebody. You can also reach out to me directly. My email is just tyler@circuitstream.com. Very easy. We'll share some contact info there. And I think I put the meeting link in the chat earlier too. If anybody has any questions, you can book a meeting with an admissions person and they'll be able to answer more than I can anyway. So let's see here.
One more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as the careers, I think people often forget that there's like a UX position as well that's like pretty popular in games. And from what I've heard from people who work in UX, they're like always trying to find more people who are like specializing in UX to hire at various studios. So I think that that's kind of like a underrated role as well. And it applies outside of games as well. It's kind of a quickly emerging field.
Awesome. And I believe there is a component of that in our design bootcamp. I'd want to double check that before I say for sure to everybody in the audience, but pretty sure the bootcamp covers that as well. So let me see here. Let me throw this one up here. What do you think for projects as a software engineer? What should I be doing to stand out? Should I focus on data structures or making personal games on Unreal? Continuing last question, if I sneak into the famous school events, does it count as networking? Something I've never done.
I think it's got to be a mix of both. If you're trying to be like a software engineer, kind of get into the game industry through that, you definitely need your data structures and algorithms to be core. However, I would say if you have enough kind of knowledge of the fundamentals of data structures and algorithms, like making games is how you learn them and how you kind of master them. Like if you think of I want to make that cool game mechanic, I want to replicate that, or you have your own idea for something, like you're going to have to use data structures and algorithms and all that stuff in order to pull it off, especially like the more and more complex you get something. So making games is a way that you can kind of hone that craft, given that you know some of the fundamentals, and you can also verify, like after you implement something, you can see how someone else did it, and like maybe then you can that can help you gain perspective and improve your data structures and algorithms through doing that verification thing. So I would say I lean towards making personal games, given that you're already like a software engineer or like have some foundation of that stuff through school or whatever.
Perfect. I saw Iris nod there as well. I always look for the nod from both sides. Totally disagree. Let me put this one up here. Thank you for your answers. My last question, I'm also wondering, when preparing for tech interview, are there similar websites compared to LeetCode, but focused on game dev, or how do you practice game-related engineering skills in general?
I'd already mentioned this book in the chat, but Game Design, or I think it was called Game Programming Patterns. That's a really great book. I'd highly recommend you read that. As far as gaming, like how do you practice this type of interviews? There's another interview site called Pramp. I don't know if it's still up, but it gives you like peer interviews. So like basically you take one question, your partner takes another question, and you kind of switch roles and do it that way. You could simulate that honestly just by asking people in your network, especially if there are other people within your network who are interested in game engineering in general. Just like ask them to practice with you. I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and the interviews pretty much always follow a Jeopardy style. So just like watch a lot of Jeopardy. No, not really. But I also, just to reiterate the previous thing I mentioned, like implementing game mechanics and stuff is kind of like, for a gameplay programmer, what you do. So just continuing to practice the stuff that you would do in the role. I don't think that correct me if I'm wrong, Iris, but I don't think that we really use LeetCode or like online coding interview tests for the game industry. It's usually like people will ask you questions and you kind of have to explain your answer without like actually writing down the code on paper.
I would say it depends on the company,
Okay.
and it never hurts to have those skills, and just to be prepared for anything that might come up.
Perfect. And I can just add in as well, this would be more specific, I guess, to the game development bootcamp that we offer directly with UCI. But when I was up earlier, we actually do have a dedicated section throughout the entire course to assist people with writing resumes, cover letters, figuring out your pitch. We do networking events, and we actually have the pitch day event as well. And I haven't shared this with these two, but these two folks will probably be invited to upcoming pitch days as well if they want to take a look at some of the new talents that students are doing. So, but that's basically what we do. We invite people who are currently working in the industries. Oftentimes we invite people from like early career departments or internship departments or just hiring departments within the companies. So Solar and Iris may not be at the next event directly. I'm not quite sure. You guys are welcome to come. But that's where we showcase the skills from the students, and we basically try and prepare them throughout the course as well, the best way we can, so that they can go into the tech interviews, with the proper materials and the proper mindset. So let me see. It looks like we've got 2 more questions up here. For going into the game industry, I know that UCI offers 2 degrees, computer science, game design. I'm not sure if you may answer or recommend. I'm solely interested in programming aspects. So as it currently stands, UCI doesn't offer a game development degree program. We do have this course here, the game development course that we're partnered with Circuit Stream through Continuing Ed. That's the only game dev education that we're offering right now, but of course it's extensive and would provide you with a lot of the fundamentals that you'd need to break in. So depends on what type of course you're looking at. If you're looking at something like we offer through the Continuing Ed department, the game dev course that we offer would be great. If you're looking at something a little bit more extensive, something with a degree attached to it, I know that there are other universities that do have courses in that regard. I just don't think it's available through UCI for that quite yet right now. I don't know if you guys have any additional, this is probably more of a Tyler question anyways, just on the education side there through UCI. So hopefully that answers your question, but go ahead.
I'll just say that it sounds, I don't know the specifics of UCI or anything, but sounds like computer science degree is probably good for pursuing programming things. Even if you're doing game development, computer science is just the fundamental thing for programming in games and anywhere else.
Totally. Yeah, it'll give you the base fundamentals for sure. So hopefully that answered that one. And then I think this was the last one here. What do we think stands out the most when hiring and looking at an internship? Like something that's a big factor, for example, has done 200 plus LeetCode or made a Spider-Man web swinging system, which is actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, both of those are pretty impressive. You won't be able, I don't think like necessarily I have put 200 hours of LeetCode is going to necessarily make you stand out. Like that's something you have to demonstrate. But if I had to choose, I would say Spider-Man web swinging system sounds pretty freaking cool.
Totally.
But you can demonstrate your leak code mastery as well in the interview itself.
Yeah, I think the leak code like number is kind of a bit more abstract, whereas like actually implementing like game mechanics or making games on your own is a little bit more directly applicable for something like a resume. I would say that like that, especially like if you've made it with a group of people, you worked on a game with other people, you made these are the things you worked on. I think that's kind of pretty impressive to have on a resume.
Totally. Yeah, the Spider-Man web swinging system got me. I've played Spider-Man games a million times in my life, but I also play Fortnite, and they have a similar structure in the game at times, the swinging system. I just remember hearing a lot of people saying that it was smoother than some of the Spider-Man games that have come out. So I know it's an impressive thing to do. So
they have a GDC talk about how they did it too.
Really? Oh, I have to go. I was at GDC last year, but I didn't see that. I'm going to have to go this year when we're there. So
it might be on YouTube.
Oh yeah, actually, I can probably find it there. But on that note, I'll have to find both of you at GDC this year as well. So, well, that's it. I think that's it for the questions. I'm just having a quick look through here in the chat, but I think we covered everything. For anybody, if you have any additional questions or if you think of something after the fact, just reach out to any of us here. Salar, Iris, I don't know if you guys have it handy right now, but if you have access to your LinkedIn profiles, feel free to throw those links into the chat here. And myself too, I'm just Tyler Trapp at Circuit Stream. So you can find me on LinkedIn that way, but feel free to add. I think I've already had a couple people from this presentation add, but yeah, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully this all helped. Everybody look for the event download in your email inbox afterwards. We will send a recording out. Oh, and I will put this in the chat one final last time as well, just so that people do have access to it. But this is the syllabus download link directly as well for the game development course. So if you're interested in that or you want to take a look, feel free to go through that. But outside of that, thank you to both of our amazing speakers. Salar, Iris, you guys are both awesome. The advice that you shared today for the students is incredibly valuable. I'm sure that people have a lot of good takeaways here today. So thank you both so much for joining. Yay. And yeah, everybody look out for our upcoming events. We'll have more workshops and more sessions available soon. So you can look through UCI's website or you can look through Circuit Stream's website, and we will have both those posted. So thank you so much. And on that note, I will end the session here today. So everybody have a great day. Okay, bye.